What initially seemed like a heartbreaking accident quickly turned into a complex investigation, with digital evidence playing a crucial role in uncovering the truth. Join me as we navigate the timeline, scrutinize the suspects, and witness how justice was eventually served. Let's get started. Fox was unresponsive when she was found in her car, prompting her boyfriend to dial 911. To crack the case, investigators needed to gather evidence from the crime scene and trace the digital footprints left by the culprit. In the year 2020, she was 29 years old. She resided in Plain Township, Stark County, Ohio, with her boyfriend and her 9-year-old daughter. Her daughter was the most significant person in her life. Morgan did everything in her power to make sure her child had everything she needed. At that time, Morgan was employed as an operations manager at FedEx. Her life was tragically cut short during an incident that occurred early on the morning of October 28, 2020. Her boyfriend found her in the garage of their home, sitting in her SUV. The car door was ajar, and Morgan had a wound on her head. He immediately dialed 911, reporting that Morgan had no pulse and expressing concern that she might have been struck on the head. When officers arrived at the scene, it was raining, a regrettable condition that could easily compromise crucial evidence. Morgan appeared to be partly in and out of the vehicle. Her purse was with her, and there were no signs of theft. There was also cash inside the vehicle, but the suspect hadn't taken that either. When officers discovered a bullet hole in the passenger side door, it became evident that Morgan had been shot. Not far away, on the adjacent property, they found fresh tire tracks on the grass and muddy smudges on a fence. Although it was uncertain at that moment whether these clues were tied to the incident, upon removing Morgan's body from the vehicle, police discovered 2 bullet wounds, one located behind her left ear and another at the top of her head. It seemed that someone had approached Morgan as she was entering her car and shot her at close range. Investigators now faced the challenge of identifying the individual responsible for such a brutal and calculated act. Scattered on the ground near her vehicle were several objects, including Morgan's cell phone. Phones often contain vital information in cases like this, and officers seized it as evidence, hoping the rain hadn't compromised it. Morgan's mother informed investigators that she had spoken to her daughter over the phone the night before her death. Detectives inquired whether Morgan had any known adversaries, if her relationship with her boyfriend was stable, or if anyone might have wished her harm. Dun May, her mother, clarified that while Morgan and her boyfriend had faced issues in the past, things had lately been going well. She also noted that Morgan had experienced trouble with several male co-workers. In such cases, investigators typically begin by looking into the individuals closest to the victim. Because of this, police interviewed Morgan's boyfriend, who had discovered her body and made the 911 call. He informed them that he and Morgan had been cohabitating for about a year. Although he wasn't the biological father of her daughter, he stated their relationship was solid. He also mentioned that Morgan was scheduled to start work at 2 a.m. that day. Usually, she woke around 1 a.m. and left the house shortly after 2 a.m. That routine allowed Morgan enough time to get to work on time. Her boyfriend recounted that he woke up around 6 a.m. and noticed her car was still in the driveway, which struck him as odd. Concerned, he went outside to check and found Morgan unresponsive in the vehicle. He immediately called 911. During questioning, he appeared visibly upset and emotional. He seemed genuinely heartbroken over Morgan's death and expressed a readiness to assist with the investigation. Detectives observed that he didn't seem to be hiding anything. During the interview, he revealed that the day before, Morgan had taken her daughter to her grandmother's house, as she usually did when working a night shift. Afterward, she returned home, had dinner, and went to bed. Investigators took particular note of a detail shared by Morgan's boyfriend. He mentioned that Morgan had recently had a conflict with some male co-workers after they had taken her phone from her desk. When she returned to the office, she reportedly caught them looking through her personal photos and data. Furious, she confronted them, and a heated argument ensued. With limited physical evidence at the crime scene, detectives looked for another option. Surveillance videos from local residences. Officers canvassed the area, visiting homes in search of security cameras. They found several inconspicuous peephole cameras, which they believed could be their best chance. Unfortunately, that optimism was short-lived. The footage they retrieved showed nothing unusual. However, they were fortunate to discover that Morgan's phone had survived the rainfall and remained operational. Upon reviewing her messages, they found that the last person she had texted was her boyfriend. The detectives examined Morgan's texts and noticed that her relationship with her boyfriend seemed solid. On October 8th, just 20 days before her passing, Morgan had texted him about an incident at work, explaining that some colleagues had taken her phone and accessed its contents. She suspected they had seen inappropriate photos. After going through the messages, investigators felt reassured that her boyfriend had been truthful with them. To investigate claims of workplace conflicts, detectives visited Morgan's employer. They had received information from 2 different sources, indicating she had disputes with some coworkers. After speaking with her supervisor, they confirmed that the phone incident had indeed taken place and involved 3 male employees. Upon reviewing the personnel files of those individuals, detectives uncovered something troubling. Out of the 3 employees being examined, detectives quickly ruled out 2 as unlikely suspects. However, the 3rd individual raised significant concerns. This employee, 29-year-old Jason McDermott, had previously received a formal reprimand for harassing a female colleague, behavior that continued even after she asked him to cease. Given that Morgan typically left for work around 2 a.m., investigators established that the crime must have occurred between that time since she never made it out of her driveway. To track Jason McDermott's whereabouts, police requested CCTV footage from the workplace. The video showed that McDermott arrived at 2 a.m. that morning, nearly 30 minutes late, and that he entered the building through the back entrance. Due to the timing, Jason McDermott became a primary suspect. He was not present during the time frame when the crime took place. According to his supervisor, McDermott acted normally after his shift concluded at 9 a.m. that day. FedEx confirmed his employment and later issued a public statement expressing condolences. "We extend our deepest sympathies to the family and friends of our team member, Morgan Fox. In light of this tragic incident, FedEx Ground is fully cooperating with law enforcement during their investigation." One witness disclosed that Morgan had ended her relationship with McDermott, reportedly leaving him very upset. In reaction, McDermott penned her a letter of apology and received an informal warning at work. He was advised that any further misconduct would result in termination. Meanwhile, Morgan's family grappled with uncertainty over who might be to blame. Her sister took to social media, encouraging anyone with information to step forward and reach out to the police. Someone may have been nearby and seen or heard something crucial. Any detail could be significant. Meanwhile, Morgan's 9-year-old daughter was left to confront the devastating news of her mother's passing. Simultaneously, detectives continued to probe into Morgan's co-workers, re-examining her phone for messages that might indicate if someone had misinterpreted her or accessed her private photos without consent. During their investigation, they came across letters written by Jason McDermott. Law enforcement deemed much of this information noteworthy. A year prior to Morgan's death, Jason had brought her breakfast at work and conveyed in writing that he would always support her. Morgan replied with appreciation, letting him know she valued the kind gesture. The text messages imply that Morgan regarded Jason as merely a friend, while Jason hoped for a more substantial relationship. On October 8th, Jason and some of Morgan's other co-workers browsed through her phone, which shifted her feelings toward him. After that, she sent him stern messages expressing her lack of trust. The following day, Morgan called Jason to discuss the events, and although he apologized, the damage was done. Morgan had no desire to engage with him anymore and acted distant. They hadn't communicated since October 24th, just 4 days before her passing, when Jason sent her a message. Inquiring about her time in Columbus, Morgan replied, taken aback, "How do you know that?" She was indeed in Columbus with her family at that moment. She was surprised that Jason seemed to be aware of her whereabouts. He asserted that she had mentioned it to him personally. Nevertheless, following that conversation, Morgan barely kept in touch with him. Furthermore, authorities found no messages on Morgan's phone, indicating that she had announced she was going to Columbus. Suspecting that Jason McDermott might have been monitoring Morgan, the police brought him in for questioning. He agreed to respond to all their inquiries. When asked if he and Morgan had ever shared a romantic relationship, he refuted it, claiming she was merely a friend. At one stage, he confessed that he thought he might have feelings for her, but upon reflection, he determined it wasn't love. The police then inquired if he knew anyone who might wish to harm Morgan. He replied that he didn't know anyone capable of such actions. When confronted directly with the question, "Did you shoot Morgan Fox?" he categorically denied any involvement. He also agreed to allow investigators to search his cell phone. The police hoped to find evidence on Jason's phone that would either corroborate or contradict his statements. Their main priority was to track the location of his phone on the night Morgan Fox was attacked. If his phone indicated he was in proximity to Morgan's home during the incident, he would become the primary suspect. In examining the location data, they discovered that Jason's phone remained near his residence from 4 p.m. on October 27th until 2 a.m. on October 28th when he departed for work. This suggested that he had been at home during that period. The crime lab took possession of McDermott's phone to retrieve all data. This included any deleted information, and while awaiting results, investigators received an anonymous tip from an unidentified caller. The caller warned them to keep an eye on a man named Mark, another individual that Morgan might have been involved with. The police called Mark in for questioning. When asked about Morgan Fox, Mark stated they were co-workers. Upon investigating Mark's phone, the authorities found no pertinent information related to the case. After confirming his alibi, the police cleared him from their list of suspects. As the investigation continued, all suspects were eliminated except for Morgan's boyfriend and co-worker, Jason McDermott. However, McDermott aroused the most suspicion. Thus, the police chose to direct their focus specifically on him. They found him at his parents' house before bringing him in for more questioning. Officers noted that McDermott's car had just been washed and was parked in the garage. This struck them as peculiar since it had rained the day prior. The roads were still wet, leading them to wonder why he felt compelled to wash his car. Later, someone informed them that Jason had visited a gas station and a car wash after work on October 28th. The police reviewed CCTV footage from the gas station, revealing that after his work shift, Jason went straight to the car wash. However, there was something odd about his behavior. After thoroughly cleaning the rear wheel wells, he inexplicably chose to clean that same area once more. This struck investigators as strange, especially since the roads were still damp from the rain. Following the car wash, Jason drove past the gas station's convenience store without stopping inside. Instead, he pulled over, exited his vehicle, and meticulously examined his Ford, walking around it entirely. Experts later confirmed that the tire tracks discovered at the crime scene matched those made by McDermott's car, which explained his thorough cleaning of the tires. The police also spoke to individuals familiar with him, and everyone was aware of the situation concerning Morgan's phone. They all recognized that after Morgan severed ties with him, Jason was profoundly distressed. They agreed that his attempts to win Morgan back markedly altered his behavior. As police began to monitor McDermott's activities, they learned he had attended a vigil near Morgan's residence. He even shared a photo from the event on social media, accompanied by an emotional message and the hashtag Justice for Morgan. In his post, McDermott wrote, "I wish I had the time to list all the ways you've transformed my life. The list would be so lengthy we might never reach the conclusion. Whenever I had a tough day, I knew I could always come to you as a friend. The list would be incredibly extensive. We'd likely never finish it. During tough days, I always felt I could count on you as a friend. It's incredibly strange not being able to speak with you, leaving a huge void in my heart." He went on to say that he knows you will always be looking over us, your family, your friends, and your daughter. You transformed all of our lives for the better, and we will always remember you. investigators successfully retrieved a wealth of data from McDermott's phone, including files he had purposely deleted. His browsing history indicated that he frequently visited adult video websites, pointing to a notable obsession. In his chats with others, McDermott often mentioned Morgan and shared numerous photos of her. His phone was packed with images of her, even though he had reached out to various women on social media and made plans to meet some of them. The evidence indicated that at one point he stopped communicating with other women and focused entirely on Morgan Fox, meticulously tracking all of her activities. Beginning in the summer of 2020, McDermott started secretly filming Morgan with his phone while at work. One of the videos was shot at Morgan's home, capturing him sitting in the kitchen as he recorded her doing the dishes, unaware that she was being filmed. The videos and photos clearly demonstrated that Morgan had no clue she was being observed. Jason McDermott was evidently fixated on Morgan, but she started to pull away after catching him going through photos on her phone. It's conceivable that McDermott understood he would never be with her, and so he decided that she shouldn't be with anyone else. While the police had a general idea of who McDermott was, they still needed to connect him to the crime scene. A traffic camera assisted them in this, capturing footage of McDermott's Ford heading toward Morgan's house at 1 a.m. At 2 a.m, McDermott turned his car around and drove off. By then, Morgan was already deceased. He was apprehended 1 week after her death. When the police searched his vehicle, they didn't find the weapon used in the crime. Authorities believe McDermott parked his car exactly where the tire tracks at the scene were found later. While Morgan was entering her car, McDermott waited outside. As she settled in, he approached her and shot her twice in the head. He then quickly jumped back into his car and sped away. In his haste to escape, he left mud smeared on a white fence. He intentionally left his phone at home but returned later to fetch it. After the shooting, McDermott drove directly to work. Morgan's stepsister, Megan Barrett, stated that she was completely unaware of McDermott until his arrest. She found his disturbing social media posts deeply unsettling. If he truly was the one who took Morgan's life, I believe he's a very sick individual, someone profoundly troubled who derives pleasure from the suffering of others, she remarked. This all started in April of 2021. Throughout the investigation, McDermott asserted his innocence and never took the stand. His defense attorney, Graham, argued that the investigation was flawed from the outset, as it focused on the wrong individual. Graham informed the jury that he's a young man who does not cause trouble. He works long hours and then goes home to sleep. Graham explained that McDermott found 2 FedEx co-workers with Fox's stolen phone on October 8th and admitted to browsing through it with them. He even sent Fox an apology letter. Graham raised the question of how Fox's boyfriend, who was present in the house at the time of her death, could not hear 2 gunshots fired from less than 10 yards away. McDermott voluntarily gave the police his DNA, car, phone, and his parents' address without being prompted. The defense also noted that McDermott's father owned several firearms, which he did not have access to. The judge determined that McDermott was responsible for stalking Morgan Fox and eventually taking her life. Before sentencing, Morgan's family members expressed their thoughts. The individual convicted of this heinous crime will serve life in prison, and although Judge Natalie Helper could have granted parole, after 23 years, she chose to reject that possibility. She indicated, "While you have no prior criminal history, I believe there is a risk you will reoffend, and there is a need to safeguard the community." FedEx agreed to settle with Morgan's family for a total of $4 million. With $1.3 million designated for the lawyers handling the case. About $2 million was allocated into a trust and organized account to secure Fox's daughter's future. In the meantime, 6 members of the Fox family, including her parents, were set to receive around $650,000 thanks to this settlement. In the meantime, 6 members of the Fox family, her parents included, were set to receive approximately $650,000 as a result of this settlement. Fox's daughter will have the chance to enjoy many of the experiences her mother would have wished for her, as detailed in the legal documents. Estate attorneys highlight these aspirations such as pursuing ongoing golf lessons, enrolling in a renowned university, and celebrating a beautiful wedding. We appreciate you joining us for this comprehensive examination of the heartbreaking story of Morgan Fawcett. It was the digital evidence and the unwavering commitment of investigators that finally led to her killer facing justice.